Ma'am, step out, now.
I'm a teacher. This is my classroom.
Step out, or I will remove you.
You're about to put hands on a teacher.
The classroom door didn't slam. It clicked, soft, controlled, the kind of sound that usually means a lesson is about to start. But this time, it meant an officer had just decided the room didn't belong to the woman standing at the front of it. Ms. Nia Caldwell held a dry erase marker in one hand and a stack of graded papers in the other. Behind her, the board still had yesterday's sentence starter, written in neat blue letters. Today I learned that desks were arranged in small groups. A jar of sharpened pencils sat near the window. Construction paper pumpkins hung on the wall because her third graders were counting down to fall break. It was 7:23 a.m. Pre-bell quiet. The only sounds were the fluorescent hum and the faint squeak of a custodian's cart passing in the hall. The school resource officer stepped into the doorway like he was entering a crime scene. "Ma'am," he said, voice flat, eyes scanning the room as if looking for proof. "You need to come with me." Nia blinked. "Excuse me?" He didn't answer the question. He repeated the order. "Step out, now." Nia's heart thudded once, hard, not because she was afraid of being late, because she recognized the tone. A tone that doesn't want facts, a tone that wants compliance. "I'm a teacher," she said calmly. "This is my classroom." The officer's jaw tightened. "I said step out," he snapped, and then, loud enough for a secretary at the end of the hallway to hear, he added the sentence that would later turn into a headline. "Or I will remove you." Remove you from a classroom, from a school, from the life she'd built one lesson at a time. Nia didn't raise her voice. She didn't curse. She did something far more dangerous to a person who needed control. She stayed still. "Officer," she said, holding his gaze, "you're about to put hands on a teacher in front of children." The officer's hand drifted toward his belt, not the gun. The cuffs and the security camera in the hallway kept recording. Because months later, when the school district agreed to a $3.1 million settlement, it wasn't because the story was complicated. It was because the footage made it simple. A woman in the right room, a man with power in the wrong mindset, and a system that allowed a misunderstanding to turn into humiliation. Rewind to the morning that set the trap. Nia Caldwell wasn't new. She wasn't a substitute who wandered into the wrong hallway. She was the kind of teacher students remembered years later. Not because she was strict, because she was steady. She was 36, raised on the south side of the city by a mother who worked nights and a grandmother who believed books could be armor. Nia had grown up doing homework at kitchen tables where adults talked about bills and survival. She didn't become a teacher because it was easy. She became a teacher because she wanted kids to feel safe while their brains opened. Oakridge Elementary, an aging brick building with a bright mural by the front doors, was her second home. She'd taught there for 8 years. She knew which light flickered in the hallway. She knew which vending machine ate quarters. She knew which kids needed a gentle voice and which kids needed structure like oxygen. She also knew the school had a new resource officer, Officer Grant Halverson, transferred in mid-year after a district program expanded security. He was polite in meetings, firm in the halls, and, according to a few teachers, quick to assume disrespect. Nia didn't pay attention to gossip. She paid attention to patterns, and she noticed his pattern fast. He lingered around certain students. He questioned certain parents. He treated small things like threats. But that morning, Nia wasn't thinking about him. She was thinking about a reading assessment. She was thinking about a student named Malik, who had finally started sounding out words without covering his face. She was thinking about lunch duty. Normal teacher thoughts. The kind that don't prepare you for a man with a badge telling you to leave your own classroom. It started with an email, a staffing mix-up. The district had updated its system over the weekend. A new HR portal, new badges, new access codes. On paper, it was modernization. In reality, it was chaos. Several teachers had their profiles temporarily duplicated. One substitute was accidentally listed as assigned to Nia's grade level. And in the front office that morning, someone saw a name in the system and made a decision before asking a question. A clerk told the assistant principal, "We have an unrecognized adult in room 3B. Unrecognized, not unverified, not let's check, unrecognized. Then someone added a detail that pushed the response from administrative to enforcement. They said the adult in 3B was refusing to sign. In. That part wasn't true. It was a misunderstanding of timing. Nia had signed in at 6:58, but the portal hadn't updated, so the system, not the person, looked wrong. And instead of correcting the system, the school called the officer. Halverson. He walked to room 3B with a story already written in his head. And when you walk into a room with a story already written, you don't look for facts, you look for confirmation. That's why he didn't greet Nia with, "Good morning, Ms. Caldwell." Teachers knew her, students knew her, the custodian knew her, but Halverson acted like she was a stranger. His first words weren't a question, they were a command. And Nia, standing in the very room where she taught children to use words to solve problems, suddenly realized words might not be enough. When he told her to step out, Nia did what professionals do. She offered verification. "Officer," she said calmly, "my badge is on my lanyard. My employee ID is in my desk. The front office can confirm. I've been here 8 years. Halverson's eyes flicked to the lanyard, then away. "I don't care," he said. "You're not on the list." Not on the list, as if a list is stronger than a person's life. Nia felt her throat tighten, but she kept her voice even. "Then the list is wrong," she replied, "and you can fix that without escalating." Halverson's nostrils flared. "Escalating," he repeated, offended by the word, as if escalation was something that happened to him, not something he chose. He stepped deeper into the room. Nia instinctively shifted slightly in front of her desk. Not to block him, to claim the space. It was her classroom, her student space, a place where children should feel safe. Halverson read her movement as defiance. "Turn around," he said. Nia stared. "Are you arresting me?" Halverson's voice went colder. "I'm removing you," he said. "If you resist, you'll be charged for being in your classroom, for teaching, for existing in the wrong person's assumption." In the hallway, a 5th grade teacher stepped out of her room. Ms. Patel. She heard the tone, she saw the posture, she saw Nia's face. "Officer," Patel called out, "that's Ms. Caldwell. She's assigned to 3B. Halverson didn't look at Patel. "Ma'am, stay in your classroom," he barked. Patel hesitated. Then she did something that would matter later. She raised her phone, not to be dramatic, to protect the truth. Nia noticed a small spark of relief. Because cameras change behavior, sometimes, but they also document when behavior doesn't change. Halverson stepped closer. His hand moved again toward his cuffs. Nia held her hands out, palms visible. "I'm not resisting," she said, "but I'm not leaving my classroom until an administrator confirms what you're claiming." Halverson's jaw clenched. "Last chance," he said. Nia's voice stayed steady. "Call the principal," she replied. And that's where the security footage shows the moment the whole situation tipped, because the principal, Dr. Sloane Everett, was walking down the hallway at that exact moment. She heard the officer, she saw Nia, and she stopped, not to ask what was happening, to end it. Officer Halverson, she said sharply. Step out of the classroom. Halverson turned. Dr. Everett, he said, a little too late. Everett's eyes were hard. What are you doing? She demanded. Halverson tried to justify. She's not on the assignment list, he said. Refused to comply. Possible trespass. Everett's expression didn't change. That's Ms. Caldwell, she said. She teaches 3B. She's been here 8 years. Halverson's face flushed. Everett continued. The system was updated this weekend. There are errors. That's why we verify. We don't threaten. Arrests. Halverson's eyes flicked to Nia, and in that flicker you can see it. Not remorse, annoyance, as if he'd been inconvenienced by being wrong. Nia exhaled, but the relief didn't erase the humiliation, because now the question wasn't whether she belonged. The question was how close she came to being dragged out anyway. Everett turned to Nia. Nia, she said, voice softer. I'm so sorry. Nia nodded, but her eyes stayed on the officer. Principal, she said. He threatened to remove me. He reached for cuffs. Everett's jaw tightened. I know, she said. Because Patel's phone was still up, because the hallway camera was still rolling, because the officer's own body camera, yes, it was on, was still recording his tone. There was no version of this where it didn't happen. The school day started anyway, because school days don't stop for trauma. The bell rang, kids poured in. Nia smiled through it. She asked about homework. She led morning meeting. She read a picture book with a steady voice, but inside something had shifted, not because she doubted herself, because she had seen how quickly a system could turn on her. By lunchtime, rumors were already moving. Teachers whispered, parents texted. A student told his mum. The police almost took Ms. Caldwell. The phrase almost took is the kind of phrase that sticks, because it captures the line between safety and danger, and how thin that line really is. The district tried to handle it quietly, a meeting, an apology, a promise of better coordination. They asked Nia not to speak publicly until the facts are reviewed. Nia listened, then she asked one question. What facts are you missing? They didn't answer, because the facts were on video, and video changes everything. It doesn't care about reputation, it doesn't care about politics, it only cares about what happened. Nia filed a formal complaint, not because she wanted drama, because she wanted a record. She requested the bodycam, the hallway footage, the front office logs, the HR portal audit, and she requested that Halverson be removed from the building pending investigation. The district hesitated, not because they loved him, because removing an officer is a statement, and districts hate statements. They prefer process. Then Patel's hallway video leaked, a short clip, an officer in a classroom doorway, a teacher holding a marker, a command. If you resist, you'll be charged, and the principal's voice cutting through. Step out of the classroom. That clip moved fast. Parents didn't need legal jargon. They understood the image. A teacher being treated like an intruder. A classroom turned into a confrontation. The district's response shifted overnight. They placed Halverson on administrative leave. They announced an independent review. They said they were committed to a safe learning environment. But Nia's attorney wasn't interested in slogans. He was interested in policies, and in why an officer felt empowered to threaten arrest inside a classroom over a paperwork discrepancy. Here's the twist that made the settlement number climb. During discovery, emails surfaced, not about Nia, about the district's security program. Administrators had raised concerns months earlier that the resource officer program lacked clear limits, that officers were being used for routine discipline, that some officers escalated minor issues, that teachers felt intimidated. There were notes about Halverson specifically, a complaint from a parent that he had yelled at a student, a teacher note that he interprets questioning as defiance, a memo suggesting he needed additional training on de-escalation in educational settings. The district hadn't acted, they'd filed it, they'd moved on, and now those old warnings became proof of negligence, not just one bad morning, a pattern ignored. Depositions made it worse. Halverson was asked why he didn't simply call the front office to verify Nia's identity. He said he didn't have time. He was asked why he reached for cuffs. He said he felt threatened. When asked what Nia did that was threatening, he described tone, not movement, not aggression, tone, a word that can hide bias inside a feeling. The district's lawyers watched the video and did the math. A jury seeing a teacher threatened in her classroom, a jury hearing, "remove you," a jury hearing the principal confirm she belonged, a jury reading emails showing the district had been warned about escalation. That's not a good case to take to trial. Not when footage exists, not when parents are watching, not when the setting is a classroom, a place the public expects to be sacred. The settlement, $3.1 million, arrived with the familiar language, no admission, no confession, but it arrived with terms, revised protocols limiting the role of resource officers, mandatory training on bias and de-escalation, a requirement that identity disputes be handled by administration unless there is immediate danger, clear rules about officer presence in classrooms, a complaint reporting system that teachers could use without fear of retaliation, and a public acknowledgement that what happened to Ms. Caldwell was unacceptable. Not perfect, but real. Nia didn't quit. That mattered. Because the easiest narrative for systems is attrition. If the person leaves, the problem resolves. But Nia stayed. She kept teaching, she kept grading, she kept writing sentence starters on the board, and she also changed. She started keeping documentation closer. She started watching the hallway camera angles. She started insisting on clarity in meetings, not because she became paranoid, because she became informed. One afternoon, months later, Malik, the student who had started sounding out words, looked up at her and said, "Ms. Caldwell, are you still our teacher forever?" Nia smiled. "As long as they'll let me," she said. Then she paused, and in a quieter voice she added, "and as long as we protect what this room is supposed to be." Because that's the heart of the story. A classroom, a teacher, a system that treated her like an intruder for a moment, and the record that forced it to admit, through policy changes and a settlement check, that she belonged there all along. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Schools are supposed to be places where children learn how the world works. On that morning, in room 3B, the world taught a different lesson. That authority can be wrong, that assumptions can wear uniforms, and that safety depends on more than locked doors. It depends on verification, on restraint, on people in power remembering that a classroom is not a street corner, and a teacher is not a suspect. The door clicked shut, soft, controlled, and in the months that followed, that quiet click echoed louder than any school bell, because it marked the moment a system tried to push a black teacher out of her own classroom, and ended up paying $3.1 million for the cost of that mistake.